Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to create ourselves a tank and a turret. So let's create a new sprite and let's create ourselves a tank. Here we go. So let's set that to that. There we go. There we go. That's going to be the base of our tank. Good stuff. And let's get rid of scratch. So that's player 1 P1 tank. There we go. And there we got our tank. And then let's create another sprite separately, which is going to be our turret. There we go, which will look like that. There we go. There's our tank, there's our turret. Let's just make the turret a little bit smaller. There we go. Obviously you could spend quite a bit of time making a nice pretty tank and turret. I'm just doing a simple one, just for demonstration purposes. So there's my tank and there's my turret. There we go. Good. And what I'll also do as well is let's just set the center of the tank using the center tool. Set that to the right to the center. There we go. And for the turret, we'll do a similar thing, but for this one, we'll set the center to about there. Notice I just set it just off to the left of center, not dead center. And the reason being is that when we do our turning in a minute, that way it should pivot around that left-hand point rather than pivoting in the center. So let's find out. So the first thing we're going to do here is, good stuff, let's, when start clicked, here we go, forever, excellent, and there we go. Let's point towards that mouse pointer. There we go. And that should, there you go. And you can see it's now pivoting towards that mouse pointer. There we go. Good. What we'll also do is, let's move that there a little bit. Good stuff. And excellent. But what we'll also do as well is that let's move to, go to, and let's always go to the current position, the X position, and the Y position of tank 1. Let's try that. There we go. That's about right. But Y position of tank 1. Now that's okay, but if you notice here, is now we're a little bit below tank 1. So let's just change that to the Y position of tank 1 plus about 10. Or maybe 20. Let's try 15. Here we go. Good stuff. There we go. A little bit high. So let's do it. 9. There we go. So there you go. You get your first turret for your first tank. That's okay. Good stuff. Excellent. Just move that over there. Let's just try that again. And what I'll also do as well is here. This one here, whenever we press start, let's go forever. Let's make sure we go to the front. So we always keep the tank body in the front. That way it hides that, hides the turret behind it slightly. Good, that's okay. What we'll do with the turret costume is, let's zoom in a bit. Let's add a little bit more to the base of that turret, just there. There we go. Good. And that should now leave that. There we go. There we go. That's not too bad. There we go. Great. So we got a tank, player 1 tank, and let's call this player 1 turret. Player 1 turret. Good. Excellent. Good. Player 1 tank, player 1 turret. Good. And what we'll also do is let's just duplicate that. And let's put that as player 2 tank. Player 2 turret. There we go. So player 2 tank, player 2 turret. Let's move player 2 tank over, turret over there, tank over there. And here, that should be fine. But we'll also have to change it to the X position of the player 2's tank rather than the player 1's tank. So let's have a look at that. So we go, press start, and now you can see we've got 2 tanks, and it doesn't matter which tank it is, they both aim their turret towards the mouse pointer. Perfect, good, cool. Right, let's stop there. Now what we'll do is let's create the backdrop, and for the moment we'll just start, zoom out, we'll just start nice and flat. We are going to make it a little bit less flat later on, but for the moment let's just make it flat, and we'll just do a green ground and a blue sky. There we go. So at the moment we've got flat terrain. Let's move him there, let's move him there. So we've got 2 tanks, and both tanks, there we go, follow the mouse pointer. Brilliant, perfect, excellent. So we've got both tanks, both pointing in the right direction. What we're also going to do is how far away from the tank it is going to be the power of the shot. So what we'll say here is we will create a sort of new variable. So the first one here is player 1 turret. So let's call this player 1 power, P1 power, good stuff. And we'll put this for all sprites because we want all the sprites to access it. So player 1 power, good stuff. And we'll always set the player power to the distance to the mouse pointer. Good. So if we press player 1, let's have a look. There you go. So player 1 power is the distance to the mouse pointer. Excellent. And if we do the same thing, but this time let's create a variable, let's call it player 2 power. And we'll set player 2 power to the distance, again to the distance of the mouse pointer. So what we've got is 2 different powers, each that go depending on what the distance is from them to the mouse pointer, which is great. Perfect, good. So now what we're going to do is we've got two tanks, and we're going to have a go at creating a cannonball. So to create a cannonball, let's click create a new sprite. Excellent. And let's click on the circle. Tiny little cannonball. There he is. That's perfect. Might even be too big. Let's find out. There we go. So there's a cannonball. Brilliant. And let's make sure that the cannonball center is dead center on there. Perfect. Dead center. Brilliant. Good. So how does the cannonball work? Well, we want the cannonball, let's say it's player 1's turn. When we press space, the cannonball is going to start here and he's going to fire off over there. So the first thing we need to do is we need to say on the cannonball here, we need to say when space pressed, if it is player 1 turn. Well, we don't know whose turn it is, so we need to create a variable and call it player turn. This will do. There we go. We do that for all our sprites. Player turn, and at the start of the game, let's set player turn to 1. Good stuff. And that means now we can say when space is pressed, if it's player 1's turn, player turn equals 1. If player turn equals 1. Good. If player turn equals 1, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change our location to the location of the player 1 turret. So let's go to the X location of player 1 turret, and let's go to the Y location of player 1 turret. There we go, player 1 turret. Good. So now when we press space, if it's player 1's turn, he's moved over there. Perfect. He's moved over there. Good. And the next thing we'll do is let's set our point in the direction of whatever the direction is of the player 1 turret. There we go. Brilliant. So now it will go to its right spot. It will point in the right direction. And now just to test it, let's put a quick forever loop in and let's just make him move. Let's make him move 10 steps. There we go. So now press space. There we go. Perfect. Let's try that again. There you go. So he's moving in the correct direction. Good. The next thing we're going to do is let's link it up, and let's say if it is player 1's turn, instead of just moving 10 steps each time, let's move the player 1 power steps. Oh, sorry. We won't do that. We won't do that. We could have just put that directly in there, but the problem is then if I keep moving this after the cannonball has been fired, if I move my mouse over here, it's going to make the cannonball speed up. So we can't do it that we have to make it a little bit more complicated. Let's call it Cannonball Speed. Ball Speed. So Cannonball Speed, make a variable called Cannonball Speed. When space is pressed, what we'll do is we'll set the Cannonball Speed to, oops, that's no good. If it's player 1's turn, then what we'll do is we'll set the Cannonball Speed to the player 1 power, and then we fire it, which is this bit here, and now we can move Cannonball Speed. So hopefully now, let's find out if I press space. Ah, there you go. Let's try again. There we go, perfect. Now, the only problem we've got here is that the Cannonball Speed is far too high. So what we need to do here is, let's use the divide, and let's divide it by, let's try dividing it by 10 first of all. Let's see how that works. There we go. So that's quite close. That's going quite slow. Let's try again. Let's try far away. And it's going quite fast. Okay. Let's have a look. Cannonball Speed. Let's try divided by 20. Let's try again. That's probably about the sort of speed I would say. Good. Perfect. Excellent. Good. So the ball now is heading up over the other side. It's going at the correct speed for the Cannonball Speed, and it's moving along quite well. But at the moment what we don't have is any gravity. So what we'll do here is let's create, the way we're going to do gravity is we'll do something called vertical velocity, and vertical velocity is the speed at which you are travelling down. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull this ball down. This isn't perfect gravity, but if you look at it in a minute when it starts working, you'll see that it's working okay. It'll do for our purposes. It's not absolutely accurate, but it'll do. So vertical velocity of 0. So what happens, how are we going to do it? Well, when we press space bar, we set the vertical velocity to 0, and then, which is fine, and what we do each time is, every time round in this little moving loop, is we change the y value, so we just bring it down by whatever the vertical velocity is. So at the moment it's going to change y by 0, so it's not going to do anything. But what we can do now is we can say, okay, each time round, let's just change the vertical velocity by -1. Let's try that, shall we? Fire away. Oops, perfect. Good, and let's try that again. Ah, there we go. So now what we've got is we've got a cannonball that shoots. Excellent. There we go. Excellent. Now that's going a little bit slow. So let's do that divided by 15. You can play with this later on and see. There we go. You can see how it works. Let's try that. Let's try that right at the top. Yeah, that's probably right, isn't it? Let's look out there. There we go. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so the cannon's firing there. Brilliant. So there we go. So when the spacebar pressed, set the vertical velocity to 0. If the player turn is 1, then we set the cannonball speed to the player 1 power. Shoot. Fire that through. There we go. And that's brilliant. That's perfect. Oops, just shot that again. That's okay. Good. So what happens when we shoot? Well, the first thing we're going to look at is what happens when, if we shoot, if we hit the ground. So there's the ball. Let's say the ball hits the ground. What we want to do if the ball hits the ground is we don't want it just to roll underneath the ground. We want it to stop. We want it to explode, destroy a bit of the ground, and then we can put it onto the next person's turn. So what do we do there? Well, there's a nice trick to this. We can use the stamp tool, which is here in pen, and it's a stamp. We can actually stamp that down. So how do we do that? Well, what we do here is go to our costume here. Let's have a look. Let's just duplicate our costume. Good stuff. Oops. Put that back in the middle. But what we'll do is over the black costume, we'll do a slightly larger costume and set that to, set the colour, clicked on the little eye pipette thing, colour, to blue. Oh, did that not work? Not work? Oh. It's not playing. Let's try again. Set the hyperpet to that. Nope, not doing it. Won't work in the background. So we'll just have to do it that way. I think that's the correct colour. Let's just find out. Yep, that's correct colour. So what's going to happen now is whenever it hits the ground, what we're going to do is we're going to change the costume to costume number 2, which is the blue costume. And then what we'll do is we'll use, there we go, let's have a look. So when space pressed, switch costume to costume 1 because we want to fire the cannonball. But if we hit the ground, let's say, here we go, if touching colour green, so if we touch green, then what we'll do is let's change the costume to costume number 2, which changes it to the blue one, and then we'll just stamp. There we go, perfect. There you go, brilliant. So if touching colour thing, change the costume to stamp, and then what we'll do is we'll stop this script because we don't want that script carrying on. There we go, stop this script. There you go. Let's try again. Now, at the moment, you probably noticed, there you go, so that's more like it. So we're starting to get somewhere nearer now. There we go. It's starting to hit the ground and destroy the ground each time. Let's just test that. That's okay. Good stuff. There we go. Brilliant. Perfect. Good. So player 1's firing and he's hitting the ground. And let's say if touching, oh, not touching colour. Let's say if we're touching the other tank. So if touching tank 2, player 2 tank. If we hit player 2 tank, then what we'll do at the moment is we'll just put a broadcast in. New message. Let's say player 2 hit. Good. There we go. If touching tank 2, player 2 hit. So broadcast player 2 hit, and then again we'll stop this script. So if it hits the floor, it'll explode the floor and then it'll stop. If it hits the tank, it'll broadcast that the tank is hit, and then we'll stop this script. So what's going to happen if player 2 tanks is hit? Well, the easiest thing to do at the moment is we'll just create another script, and all we'll do, oops, let's not do that, shall we? Let's undo that. Let's get rid of that. Let's try again, new costume. All we'll do is if he's hit, then we'll do a tiny little explosion of red and yellow. Oops, should have done the yellow there first, shouldn't I? Yellow and red. There we go. There we go. There's a little explosion. Let's draw a bit of yellow flame somewhere. Where's my yellow flame? Oops. Lost him. Oh, why has that done that? Oh, there we go. So there you go. Let's just draw a bit of flame. There we go. So if he gets hit, player 2 tanks gets hit, then all we'll do is I'll just get rid of that little bit there. I seem to have got a bit there. We'll change our costume to that. There we go. To that costume there. There we go. So let's say that's costume number 2. So obviously we'll have to, at the start of the game, change to costume 1. There we go. And when I receive player 2 hit, change our costume to costume 2. So let's have a look. Let's try that, shall we? So, oh, yeah. Oh. Ah, there you go. So now we've got a problem where it's touched the floor. Can you see it's missed all of that, but it's gone down on the floor underneath and it's hit the edge. So what we can say there as well is if touching colour, that one there, or touching the edge, go. So if we're touching the green or touching the edge, then we'll do all that. Let's try that. Let's make that work. There we go. So it's hitting there. Let's try a bit further up. See if we can hit the tank. There you go. Perfect. So you hit the tank and the tank turns to that. What we'll do then, excellent, is Good. And what we can say here, backdrop, let's just duplicate this, and let's put game over. You can obviously do things that are far fancier. Let's have a look. Game over. Let's make it a bit bigger. There we go, good. Excellent. So we've got, we can make it say game over. So when I receive player 2 hit, change the backdrop to backdrop 2. Obviously, if we're going to do that at the start of the game, we're going to need to change it to backdrop 1. So initially set it to backdrop 1. When I receive player 2 hits, change the backdrop to backdrop 2, and then let's stop all scripts. There you go. And let's set the player. Here we go. That's the easiest way to do it. Set the player to player turn to 3, and that'll stop anyone from shooting. There you go. So set player to 3. So there you go. There's our ball. If player turn equals 1, do that. There we go. Duplicate. Ooh, actually, let's put it there. In fact, what we'll do is we'll just duplicate that there. That's probably the easiest way to do it, isn't it? There we go. So if player turn equals 2, set the cannonball speed to player 2 power. There we go. Set our position to the X position of player 2 turret. Player 2 turret. Let's move that over. Point in the direction of player 2 turret. Cannonball speed. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. If touching player 1 tank. If touching player 1 tank, then broadcast new message player 1 hit. Stop this script. Good stuff. Now there's only one thing to do now, and that's let's have a look. And that is on each of those ones here, before we stop the script there, let's change the player turn to player 2 on there. So that after he's fired, if it hits something, change it to player 2. There we go. In fact, actually, yeah, let's do that, player 2. Let's change that one to player 1. Player 1 power. There we go. So now, oh, not player 1 power, player 1 turn. Player turn to 1. There we go. So now, hopefully, there you go. So it sets it, and we're shooting at each other. But there is a problem there. There we go. See that there? A little bit of a glitch. That's because it allows you to do stuff if... it's that vertical velocity there, that's why. Vertical velocity needs to go back inside there. Let's try that. That should hopefully stop that. So it'll only do that if it's their turn. Oh. Yeah, there we go. So let's try this now. There we go. Yep, so player 1 gets hit, good stuff. Now player 1 tank, we need to do the same as well. Player 1 tank, costumes. So this player 2 tank, scripts. We need the same one in player 1 tank, because that needs to do. There we go. When I receive player 1 hit, switch costume to costume 2, which we don't have. So let's create a new costume. Let's do the same thing with costume 1. Oops, not that. Draw a circle, there's a little bit of red flame, and then some, done it the wrong way around again, yellow flame, red flame, and then we'll draw some yellowy bits on the top maybe. Again, you could spend more time making it look better. There we go. And that'll do. It's probably a little bit big, should we make it a little bit smaller? About there, there we go. And let's centralize that sprite on there. Good stuff. Excellent. Good. And we'll also say, when start clicked, set our costume to costume number 1. Good. Excellent. So that's good. What we could do, actually, I've just realised now, is let's just have a go. Let's call this player 1. Player 2 wins. Player 1 wins. There you go. Game over. And let's put player 1. Oops, put it there. Player 1 wins. There we go. Player 1 wins. And then we'll duplicate that. But we'll do instead. Let's just get rid of that player 1. And then let's paste in the blue. And then that yellow. Play 2 wins. Good. So let's make it a bit bigger. Play 2. And move that to the right location. There. That's about right, isn't it? So now what we can say is we've got player 1 wins, player 2 wins. So what we'll do here is we'll say if player 2 hits, change the backdrop to player 1 wins. And then we'll do a similar thing here. Duplicate it. If player 1 is hit, then player 2 wins. There we go. Let's see if that works. So player 1 shoot. Oh, there's one more thing to do actually, and that's at the start of the game. Clear, and it will clear it all off. There we go. Oops. Let's try again. So that works. That works. Let's have a look. Let's make sure. Oh, player 2. There you go. Player 2 wins. Perfect. Good. Now at the moment that's a bit easy. So what we can do here with the backdrop is let's set the original backdrop. Let's create ourselves a nice big brush, and to make it a little bit harder, let's add some mountains in the way. Now you can make this game far more complicated however you want it, but there you go, a bit of a mountain in the way. There we go. We can see how well we do now. So let's try. So let's just test this out. There you go. We've got a nice mountain in the way now. So let's have a look. Player 1 fires up. Let's see if we can do it with player 2. Can you get up there? Player 1. Player 2. Player 1. Player 2. Player 1. Oh. Player 2. Player 1. 2. Oops. Let's see if we can make player 2 win. Let's try and get it. There you go. There we go. There we go. Now I've noticed that the ball's not quite going high enough, so what we'll do is we'll just change that. Instead of divided by 15, let's do it divided by 12, so it might actually get up there. Let's have a look. Let's try that. Oops. There you go. That's more like it, isn't it? There you go. Player 2 wins. Oh, bit of a glitch there. So, and all we need to do now is we'll just hide all the other bits. Hide that. Hide. Oops. And we'll hide that. And what we'll do is on the stage. That's okay. What we'll do is when we switch to that backdrop, player 2 wins, do the clear thing. That should get rid of those. And then that's it. All finished. Off you go.